My name is Trevor Crump, co-host with me here, Mark Goldhart. Welcome to the Unstoppable Marketer Podcast. This is episode number 1.
Numero uno.
Episode 100.
Episode 100. Thanks for everyone.
Thank you for everybody who's joined in. We've been doing this now for 2.5 years, right? We started in November of 2021. I was just telling Mark, it seems like it took us forever to get to 100 episodes, yet I feel like we were recording all the time. Yeah.
But 100 episodes, I think the hardest thing is you start getting stuck in a routine.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of what we help or try to help with companies, right? Is how to break out of marketing routines, which is routines are great, but sometimes you get stuck in a monotonous flow.
Yeah.
And so I think we too are trying to better this. That's why we want you to go take that survey.
Yep.
Help us out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we want to provide better content for you.
100%.
And be honest too.
Yeah.
We're not looking for pats on the back.
No, we don't. We'd actually rather have the opposite.
Yeah, we just want...
Yeah, if you're a listener, we already know you like it.
Yeah.
We just want to know what we can do to make it better. Mark and I already have some like really cool changes that we're talking with our producers about that we think we're going to make, but would love to get some feedback from you guys. As you know, we like to survey people. So we like to ask you guys what you want.
Give us the feedback.
Yep. This is what we discussed today. So we have a few questions already that came in last night. Hopefully I'm seeing a red bubble on our IG live. So it looks like there are questions coming in right now. So we are going to answer some of those questions towards the end. But what Mark and I really, really wanted to do was, as we kind of talked about what a fun episode would look like, and not just a fun one, but a very valuable episode would look like today, is us going through the last 99 episodes and picking out some of our favorite principles, one-liners, concepts that are going to be detrimental if you're not following them to your progress into 2024 and into 2025. So it's like, these are the must-do things if you want your marketing team, your brand, your business to succeed and not either one go stagnant or start to go down. That's how we define things. Because so just to let you know, I think we had over 50 guests in the last 99 episodes. Maybe it's over 45. I can't remember. I couldn't remember the count. But we've had let's call it over 45 guests who've all brought so much heat. I know you and I just together have brought sometimes even more heat, because on the guests, we're trying to learn more about them. Whereas like when you and I talk, it's just like straight, this is how you can get better kind of stuff, So there's a lot of content that we had to go through, but it was fun to kind of go through everything and pick out and highlight some of our favorites. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of go like one by one, and we'll riff off of each other on things you should do. So you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
Please.
Me? Oh, I am the oldest.
You're the oldest.
I am the eldest.
The oldest goes first.
Yeah, oldest goes first. Okay. I'm going to go with one that is like has stand the test of time. Like, this isn't anything that is new, but it's like the pick and roll in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just never gets old. Like, you should just always be incorporating that play, right? And this was brought up by two different people. I'm sure it was brought up by more people, but Sarah Ebert from Press Floral, she's the founder of Press Floral, which is like take your wedding bouquet and we turn it into art. And then Tommy Higgum from Lola Blankets. So one of the things that they brought up was how important it was to always have either the founder or founding team or somebody in charge of making sure that their product was flawless and always progressing and always getting better. Because they are both, Lola Blankets is a blanket company, makes the coziest blankets on earth, in my opinion. And Press Floral, I've never used them, but their artwork is amazing. But what they talk a ton about is like, it's so easy to have competitors who come in and undercut your prices and try to take over your branding and do all this stuff. And at the end of the day, there's not a whole ton, unless you have intellectual property that you can sue them or go after them for, which most people do not. Obviously, there's brands out there with that kind of technology, but most people are not in that situation where they're like, hey, somebody's creating a blanket like ours, I'm going to sue them. Unless it's like the Snuggie or something like that. And you have the intellectual property of a Snuggie. Yeah, something proprietary. So what they just said is like, stop focusing on what your competitors are doing and be so focused on what your customers love about your product and making it better. And so I think that's the number one on my list, because I think like, I just don't think people are focused enough on that.
I love that.
What do you think? Anything you'd want to add?
No, I love the idea that founders, the C-suite, if you will, depending on how big your company is, like everyone needs to have a hand in the product, because ultimately the product is the user experience, right? Marketing is the perception of the brand. Like you are creating an expectation of what a customer can have with your brand, but the product is what's going to elevate that user experience to create repeats.
Totally.
And with the rising cost of acquisition, you have to have your product experience nailed down.
Yeah, that's a huge one. I didn't even touch on that. Like, if you're not getting people to come back and repeat, and you might not have a repeatable business. So like Pressed Floral, I know that they've made their business repeatable where they can do other things, but I would imagine that their returning customer rate is probably not higher than 20%, if I had to bet.
But yeah, because people don't go through those kinds of life.
When their main thing is a flower bouquet for their wedding.
Yeah.
You know, I do know.
Or a funeral, you know, like that's not happening every year.
Yeah, I guess.
But word of mouth.
Divorce rate is 50%. So maybe. But exactly, word of mouth, right? So it's either repeat customer rate, or are those people saying, you know, my wife, for example, hey, you know, one of the first things she says to her sister who's getting married, make sure you work with Pressed Floral, you know? So you have to either have a product good enough that people are going to come back and buy, or they're going to refer family, friends, colleagues, whatever. And it can be both too, obviously.
I love it. Mine is going to be from Karen at Lulu & Co.
Oh.
I don't have a one-liner. I'm not a one-liner guy, but the principle that she taught so well, and that what helped them succeed, is having empathy for your customers. So something that she did is she had these lives where she would get on with moms, but she would coordinate this at times that moms could be on with her.
Yeah.
Right? So it was like at night is usually like the best time.
Yeah.
Even though that's not the best time to be on for like a general audience.
Sure.
She was getting on in these particular times that resonated with her target customer, which is new moms.
Yeah. What's cool about that is I actually remember when we were in our Fawn Design days, she wasn't doing that. So before, she was doing it like midday or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I always remember thinking that's really cool. And then she came on and she's like, I started doing it at night, like after I put my kids to bed, right?
Yep.
Wasn't she saying stuff? Which was probably very inconvenient for her.
Yes. Very inconvenient as a business owner. Like,
yeah.
You only have so many hours in the day, but she would get on.
Yeah.
Because that was the time that moms wanted a sense of community and like people going through the same struggle. And so when I say empathy, how this can relate to every brand is, I'm not talking about like the sappy, like you feel bad with someone all the time.
Sure. The like
having empathy is just being able to put
yeah.
yourself in your customer's shoes by understanding them and adjusting your marketing and your community building around what their needs actually are.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's like, hey, maybe people just want a good time.
Yeah.
Liquid Death, their whole branding, right, is about a good time.
Yeah.
Chubby's, Mr. Rutherford.
Yeah.
That's just a good time. And Rutherford actually is another great one about having empathy for the customer. Like it was all about, dude, all these guys are just stuck in a cubicle for 8 hours a day.
Yes.
This sucks. Like nobody wants to be in an office for 8 hours a day. I mean, some people do. No shame to you, but let's celebrate like when we all get to go out and be with the boys.
Yeah.
Or go out and have fun with the friends and the family, get in the sun.
Yeah.
That was Chubby's brand.
Yeah.
And so he built that off of having empathy for this common experience that everyone was having.
Well, this wasn't one of mine, but I just want to add to it the same way you just did is Jacques Spitzer, when he came on like 2 years ago, his one-liner was, it's not about your why, it's about their why, which is all about empathy, in my opinion, right? So, but the question is like, how do you get to know what their why is?
Yeah.
Like, you got to find a way to get to know what their why is. And that's something that Karen did a really good job at, is my guess. I can't remember if she said this in the episode, but my guess is she probably got a bunch of feedback. As people were on the live, they were probably like, oh, I have to go. I got to go pick up my kids, or oh, I wish you could do this later. I'm sure, or sending them DMs, but they probably felt comfortable enough because she was literally going live weekly with them, where they felt comfortable DMing her or just putting it in the comments like, hey, I wish you would do this at this time. I'm guessing that's probably how she discovered, like, hey, I need to switch my times up here.
Yeah.
So I love the empathy piece. Like, I think that getting to know your customers is also huge, because it's just like, once again, like, brands are a dime a dozen.
But in both of those situations, it goes back to the owner, right? The founder had a vested interest in taking care of the customer.
Yeah.
So Karen, and then with Preston Rutherford.
Yep.
The third?
No, I think we were just joking around that would be cool.
They were both founders. They had a vested interest, not just from a business perspective, but they genuinely wanted people to feel a certain kind of way.
Yes. Yes, very much so.
And that goes back to the product.
Look at us. Just
you want people to
together.
feel and have a good experience. So
I love it. I love it. My second one, I'm going to go with Jake Carls, who is the co-founder of Midday Squares. And we talk about Midday Squares. I'm sure we bring them up like every other episode. At least I do.
You do. I've counted.
They're just nailing it. Right.
Yeah.
But he just said, like, I don't think I have a one-liner, but all he talked about was essentially the message was like, hey, the most important person online is someone who can tell a story. And they've done such a great job at garnering attention. They're a chocolate company. Like Hershey's and Mars and you name any other chocolate company. Like, have you ever consumed a piece of their content? Like, no. It's the same thing with like a soda company. Like, I've never consumed.
I love those M&M commercials, but
yeah.
Haven't seen an M&M commercial in a while.
I mean, but like, you're not on social media like jonesing for a piece of content from M&Ms, right? No. So, and that goes along with a lot of those bigger brands, like the soda brands, or like they're not garnishing organic attention at all. They're paying lots of money because they have the capital to do a Super Bowl commercial or to do just a commercial in general. But what Midday Squares realize is that they are the underdog in a very, very, very small market. Acquisition costs, especially in the CPG space, are oftentimes some of the highest in the industry.
Well, when I say it's really competitive because there's high lifetime values.
Yeah, exactly. So. And Meta and TikTok and those advertising platforms understand that. And so you're paying oftentimes more money per
whether
CPM
they understand that or it's just simply supply demand.
Exactly, right? It's probably both. So their big way to, crack the code and to sell and to get attention was to tell stories. And so they have invested so much time into crafting very interesting stories. And these stories they're not talking about chocolate all the time. They do, like they tell story, but they're just talking about their business. They're talking about individuals, they're talking about things like how it's a husband, wife, and brother who all own it together. And so they tell stories about how hard it is for the three of them to work together. They tell stories about how their marriage almost failed because they worked together. They tell stories about how their website got hacked by a porn site. It's just interesting stories, and it doesn't really matter what the story is. It just matters how you tell it. And if you can tell a story interestingly enough, you are going to get attention. So I think to me, that's mission critical. I think there are so many brands who've stepped away from organic content creation because they think that it's impossible. I mean, I complain about it all the time. Like, my stuff doesn't get half the traction it used to on TikTok or Instagram, and I get so pissed about it. But at the end of the day, like, I can point the finger at Instagram and I can point the finger at TikTok, and I like to do that from time to time. But like, I also just have to look inwardly and be like, am I telling interesting enough stories? And the answer is probably not, if I'm not getting the attention
and you're not starting them off, right? Going back to hooks.
Yeah. Yeah. Or that, right?
Right.
And/or.
We have quite a few comments that have come through. And
is it comments?
Yeah, we've had some comments. Brett Swenson, shout out, right? He said he wants to know what we think about the election impact this year.
Oh, yeah.
right? Data driven around media costs and overall option.
That's a good question.
So that's a good one.
Yeah.
However, I was going to say something that stuck out was JT Barnett, right? He emphasized.
You want to explain who he is?
JT Barnett, he is an influencer, right? He built up a pretty solid TikTok following. The Creator House, what was it called? That's kind of how we got his...
The Honey House.
The Honey House.
Yes, it was like a content creator house. Yes.
Okay. Owns Creator X, that he helps facilitate brands and creators to sync up and form long-term partnerships.
Yes.
So that brands can have a face of the brand.
And we've worked with them and they've been awesome.
Yeah.
Like with some of our
He's been
clients,
great.
They've been incredible.
But with organic content, he emphasizes that a lot of people just are always chasing a trend, which, yes, there are trends that you should jump on, right? However, he says you really have to formulate your story in an authentic, engaging way.
Yeah.
And that's what sets good creators apart and good brands apart from the mediocre and less known ones.
Yeah.
So you can always be chasing one, right? The trends, but ultimately, if you're telling your story in the right ways, in an authentic way, maybe you don't have the biggest reach, but you have the right intent. And we talk about that. Sometimes reach is not as important as intent, and sometimes you have to do both.
Yeah.
But yeah, JT Barnett and his methodology, he's helped blow up quite a few brands with their organic strategies.
Yeah, he was one of the, if I remember right, he was one of the masterminds behind Poppy.
Yes.
Like really, really scaling.
Helping Poppy on the TikTok side.
And when I say mastermind, he didn't do it. He helped them understand that they needed to tell stories, and
Correct.
that's what helped them blow up. In fact, the story, if I remember right, they went on Shark Tank, and he said that when he talked to the founder and said, "Hey, tell your founding story," because she had this gut health, I think they were doing the trending stuff.
Yep.
And he said, "Tell your founding story. You have this gut health journey that helped you build this drink that helps other people out." And that video alone on social media made them more money than Shark Tank airing did.
That's incredible.
Which is crazy.
Just her telling the story of her gut health.
Organic storytelling.
Organic storytelling. And ultimately, as we jump into some of these questions and start answering some stuff, but I think the trend going into 2025 is going to be even more about human connectedness. And that's what all of these themes really boil down to. If you're going to distill it into one concept, it's AI is going to continue to take on more and more opportunities in a company, right? It's going to help you do a lot of things, but at the end of the day, humans want to connect with humans.
Totally.
And products and services are a way to facilitate that connectedness.
Yeah.
Right? That's not to take away, yes, materialism, whatever. We can have that conversation another day. But a love language for a lot of people is gift giving, right? I'm not going to say that's bad, right? Having something is a way to connect with other people.
Yeah.
Right? Wearing a certain brand is a way to connect with other people. That's why people have brand loyalty. It ends up, it's less about the brand and more how they feel connected to that brand with other people.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's going to end up being the big trend is how do you, in your storytelling and your marketing, hook them, right? Which can be clickbaits. So everyone complains about clickbaits, but then everyone keeps clicking on them. So
it's true.
I don't know if it's really a bad thing anymore.
Yeah, clickbait.
As long as you provide the value.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can be clickbaity and provide value.
Yeah.
But it's all about, are you establishing that connectedness? Are you helping them in a way that makes them and their life better?
Yep. I like that one. Should we go one more each and then answer questions? Do you think we have enough questions or do you want to go two more each?
We got some good questions that I think we can tie in
to some of these.
Let
me at least go one more.
Yeah, go.
Because we've a lot of the ones we've talked about just kind of fit in with each other. They're almost we're almost kind of saying very similar things. But this one's a little bit different that I think is really important. Mark and I had a really good episode. It was just recently that we talked about niching. Remember that episode where how important it is to niche? So I think if you're starting a brand, it's either niching or niching. So we talked about it two different ways. You can have a niched product or a niched audience. And sometimes it's both. And my comment is stemming from Chris Hall, he's the CMO over at Bruce Bolt, which is like a baseball batting gloves. And something that he said that shocked me was, I can't remember when I was interviewing him, I said something like, yeah, so your audience is baseball players. And he's like, no, it's not baseball players. And I'm like, they're baseball batting gloves. Like, baseball players seems like a very niched market when you just think about it, you know? And he's like, we are travel ball. Like, our niche market is the travel baseball community, which is people who play baseball year round. So it's not little leaguers. So like, for example, my son loves baseball, but he does not play baseball year round. He's a little leaguer. But my neighbor, he's a travel baller, and he owns 3 pairs of Bruce Bolt gloves. Right?
Jeez.
And part of the reason why is because these people, it costs a lot of money to do travel ball. So parents are so much more willing to spend money on things that they believe will help impact the performance of their kids.
Like they're already $4,000 deep. What's
much more than $4,000.
What's
brother.
a couple hundred on a
exactly.
pair of gloves?
So niching your either product will be very, very helpful, especially as acquisition costs rise, or niching into an audience. Another audience, like this was Brett Swenson from Kizik. Like one of the things, one of the ways they started out, it wasn't necessarily a niche product because it's shoes, but the problem they solved was to 2 different audience types that were very niched. One was
it started out with just
old people, and then pregnant women,
and then it evolved into pregnant women.
Now they're serving. I mean, you're wearing them right now, and you are not old, and you are not pregnant. And
no, but I don't like to wear my shoes in the house, and these are much easier to get on to go take the garbage out and then take them off on. Yeah,
but a brilliant way for. I mean, the shoe market is so. I mean, the baseball glove market probably is not that saturated. I mean, you have some dominators like Wilsons and the Spaldings and the Franklins that probably dominate that market the same way like a basketball.
Yeah.
You know, like, but the shoe market is crazy. Like between the Nikes and the Jordans and the Allbirds that, you know, I guess they're not a huge one anymore, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for them to be like, hey, if we want to enter the market, let's go for old people. Let's go for pregnant women. That was such an awesome entrance into them becoming a 9-figure brand who are now, you know, doing other bigger, cooler things. So
speaking of Kizik too, and Brett, there's Alex. Mm-hmm. And we got to throw out what he said, which is sales follow search.
Yeah, that was a good one-liner.
That is a one-liner that has stuck with me.
Yeah.
And
what does he mean by that?
Well, I think the principle that we can take going into 2025 is as people are trying to figure out their organic, if you're trying to connect with people, if you're doing that the right way, don't give up on an effort just because you don't see immediate sales off of it. Learn how to measure incrementality over time.
Yeah.
So by understanding what kind of buy windows people have or consideration times.
Yep.
And then look at your search, see like, hey, are people searching your name more and more?
Yeah.
Are you noticing that they're staying on your website? Are they just considering it? Do they need a better remarketing or marketing campaign to actually draw them in again?
Yep.
But brands are going to have to learn how to do what some might say is top funnel.
Sure. Yeah.
Get people to consider you, get people to know who you are. And that's what, again, going back to like Midday Squares and all these people that are doing the organic storytelling. Hey, a lot of people know who they are just because of a silly video around something that went wrong in their chocolate factory.
Totally.
Not because they're really considering buying chocolate from them in that time.
Dude, well, I was not considered, like, I was such a legitimate testament to the top of funnel content to becoming a, like, not necessarily a lifelong customer, but I've been shopping with them for, I mean, my lifetime value's got to be in the last 18 months pretty high.
Yeah.
Like anytime we go to Target, I always buy it. Always. And they're like $3 each. So.
Like, I am not buying Midday Squares.
Yeah, I always do. But I am their customer. Like I am very much their target audience. Like my wife and I totally are. But yeah, it's because I saw a piece of content that was stupid or just a good story. I shouldn't say stupid.
And then you said, oh, what are these guys about?
Yeah. And then like after I saw them for 6 months, I'm like, oh, I love healthy alternative candy, you know, chocolate. Like I'm a sweet guy. I like to eat food and then I always like a sweet after, but I don't want something super sugary.
Correct.
but I want something sweet.
Love it, dude. Well, do you want to jump into these questions?
Yeah, let's jump into the questions. And say who it is. Give him a shout out.
Yeah, Walker Erickson. Shout out
Walker.
to Walker. As we know, Meta has become more of a pay-to-play model. If your brand is just starting, when is the right time to start paying for ads rather than just trying to grow organically?
It's a good question. I think we'll both have similar answers, but good different perspectives on this one. One thing that I would highly recommend is if you can avoid starting out with paid ads and you can get in the muscle memory habit of building things a little bit more organic, you won't get stuck in pay to play, number one. And you won't ever feel or I shouldn't say you won't ever. You'll be less likely to feel the golden handcuffs of what happens to pay to play. So like if you jump into pay to play, like really, really immediate. So one of the mistakes that I made at Asher.
But can I just interject a little bit, not to argue with you on a live?
Please argue with me.
I think we do need to reframe the way we say, because I know we say pay to play. The reality for every business out there is welcome to business. Like it's pay to play.
Sure.
Right.
Totally.
Nike still pays to play.
Of course.
And they're huge. Like they
of course
might not have to, but they know they have to be the top of mind in consideration. Yep. So yes, I'm not arguing with what you're saying about the organic approach, because you still have to have organic approach, because that organic also feeds into your ads.
Totally.
But there's never going to be a time, really, if you want to make it big, that you don't have to pay to play.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. There's one guy, there's this guy I follow all the time. In fact, he's a guest that I'd love to have him on, and his name's Ryan Dubs. He was the creative director for Kylie Cosmetics, and now owns a company called Dew of the Gods, which is like a skincare brand. Has like a very
like a serum.
Yeah,
skin serums.
Exactly. And they don't run any paid ads, and they're crushing it. They don't pay $1 in ads. They get their stuff into subscription boxes, and he just does such a great job organically with TikTok and branding that he crushes it. And I always will he never responds to me, so I'm sure he's annoyed by it, but I'm like, he's always like, oh, we hit $10 million, or hey, we're hitting $15 million without any ads. And I'm like, well, why not run ads too?
And because they're still investing, they're paying to play because they're investing in their content.
Yeah, they're putting money and time from an editing perspective. Maybe they have people writing the scripts for their content.
Whatever it is. Or maybe he's just a genius at it.
Yeah.
But.
I mean, and I do think he is a genius. He is I've been following the guy for a long time, and he is very smart. But I do want, you're right. Like you can and should be a part of the pay to play model. But once again, going back to the golden handcuffs, if you just start pay to play and you think, okay, I just need a quick buck now and I'll figure out the organic later, maybe you will, but there's a good chance you're going to fall into the 95% of the rest of the brands who never do.
Yes, that's true.
So find ways to work with affiliates, content creators, and become a content creator yourself. That would be my number one priority. It happened with us. I was about to say it happened with us at Asher Golf. Like we fell very hard into the golden handcuffs days because it was so easy. Like I would just create 2 ads, put $500 a day, and every day we'd make $6,000 from 2 ads. So it was I don't really need to create content.
2016 was a different time.
Oh, it's the golden era.
Different day.
Yeah, it's the golden
Wild
era.
West.
Yeah, it was paid to play, but not at the same time.
Yeah.
So thank you, Walker.
The right time to start paying for ads is probably after you develop an organic strategy.
I think so. Yeah, because you nailed it, right? If it wins organically, it'll win paid.
Yeah, and define win, though. How do you win organically? Because it is harder to grow organically.
Yeah.
There's so much going on. And sometimes paid also feeds into your organic growth.
Sure. Winning organically, probably, I know that views is a vanity metric, but I actually like it because if your content gets views, it means that people are watching a long duration of it.
Define if you actually have some kind of product market fit, which you should. So do your organic strategy first.
Yep.
And then sell it, right, in real environments, whether that's through your organic presence, but just make sure people are buying it outside of your immediate family.
Yeah. And they're not just following you because you're a good storyteller, but they're not going to come and buy anything.
Yeah. So get real feedback on whatever it is you're selling.
Yeah.
And then once you have the real feedback, whether that's 10 purchases or 100 or 200, you're going to have to figure that out for what kind of product you have. Maybe you have $1,000 product or a $50 product. Get feedback, understand where it is. Because the problem with marketing dollar spend is it's gasoline. And gasoline in the wrong places does a lot of harm.
Yeah.
But gasoline in the right place, like within an engine, is great. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe not for those who support the Green New Deal, but it's an analogy.
Yeah. It's an analogy. Calm down. We both have Teslas. All right. We're okay.
That's right. I'm a Tesla guy.
We both have Teslas.
Except on the weekends, and I'm a Forerunner guy.
When I have a lot of kids, I'm
I go from 100 miles a gallon to 8.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
It's called balance.
Yeah.
Equilibrium.
Yeah.
Yin yang.
What's our next question?
Okay, great question, Walker. The next one is, how will marketing look different over the next 6 to 12 months? What trends are you noticing? Let's go into 2025 and then maybe work back. And then we can answer Brett's question about the election season.
Yeah. You want to start this one?
Yeah. Going into 2025, so the next 12 months.
Next 12 months, yeah.
What do I see in terms of trends? The biggest trends that I think I've been noticing is UGC is kind of become just like a channel. It's not really this like silver bullet that people think it is anymore. And so a lot of stuff is going back to like what we're talking about, this organic storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And the trend I'm seeing is the companies that seem to win are really resonating with that going into 2025. Because again, the trends are AI. You're going to have so many ad variations. You're going to have so many statics and GIFs and the ability to get your message out there in a quick way with creative, that the trend of how to stick is going to be human connectedness and how do you connect with actual people.
Totally.
So you're going to get better, and hopefully everyone's iterating quick to find out like what hooks are working. But, people's attentions are changing. Like we talked about, a trend that we're seeing in TikTok is like some of the biggest TikTokers are just people talking about current events.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Just it's them and a screen grab behind them.
Yeah. People like for example, like news.
Like, hey, look at this branding, this campaign, or look at this news, or this is what's happening with the election.
People aren't watching CNN anymore. People aren't watching Fox News anymore. People aren't watching MSNBC anymore. But if you can catch something that's happening, and relate it back to your business or something like that, that could be a great way to organically catch people. And
I do think Twitter ads might be something in the next 12 months to look at.
Interesting. I don't disagree with that. I think Elon Musk is doing some very interesting.
Well, you just look at the usage of the app.
It's at an all-time high.
And that's election season. That possibly is just election season.
Sure.
I don't think it's going to go down until, if it does at all, until after January, February, the inauguration season. Mm-hmm. But like X is becoming where people go for their news. And so if usage is up, that's where people are. So like, does X or Twitter figure out how to get their ads algorithm to work better? I think they're putting a high priority on it.
I like it. It's interesting. I think one of the trends that's happening is like I think that QVC style shopping on platforms like TikTok, it's blowing up right now. In the last like, that this goes even into the next 6 months, right? Like this is. And I don't know how long it'll last. I don't know if it's going to be huge, but like they've been doing it in China for the last like 2 years, My question is this a new trend, or are millennials just getting older? Because
it could be, right? I remember old people watching.
Yeah, I grew up watching QVC stuff,
shopping network stuff, or
that would we would do that on sleepovers, bro. Like I'd have sleepovers with my friends. And like as the night would go on, we'd just like turn on the QVC channel and we just like watch.
See what weird gimmicky.
Yeah, like I can get 9 knives and 10 free if I bought that tonight.
Where everybody remembers the OxyClean or
or the guy who had like the tape. That would like
it
was like waterproof.
Cement tape stuff, yeah.
Or Chia Pets.
Or chia pets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think QVC style, which is TikTok shop, I think that's going to be big for the next 12 months. Like I said, I've had like 2 bad experiences buying on TikTok shops where nothing came and I never heard from the people again. Luckily it was like $15 to $30 purchases. But in the last like 45 days, I've probably bought 5 or 6 different things from TikTok shops. I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant marketing to get somebody who is like, you know, what's happening is they're taking like a podcast clip from Joe Rogan who might have like a guest who's talking about gut health. I'm just making something up, and how important gut health is. And because Joe Rogan, and he garnishes so many views and he has such interesting people on, and somebody can clip that and then can like go into them talking about how important, you know, apple cider vinegar is for your gut, and you can buy apple cider vinegar here. It's such a brilliant way to sell.
It is.
So I think that's kind of like a whole new, it's not that new, but I think that's a huge, huge trend for the next 12 months for sure.
Dude, and the QVC stuff, and then we're going to reel this back really fast and go to election season, but the QVC stuff, what's so brilliant about that kind of platform, like if you just go back to the TV ads, is, man, does it show you how it works fast.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It's so good.
Like, I mean, it sells you so fast. It's like, oh no, I dropped my phone. Look at this. Like, remember the cord phone?
Yeah.
Like you could hold it.
Totally.
So it wouldn't drop. And like it had like some woman like dropping a phone in a pot. Oh no, I can't get up.
Yeah, I've fallen. I can't get up. Those like little heartbeat. Yeah. Those
like it shows you the value so fast. And there's something to learn about that, which is, yes, you got to catch attention fast, but like you got to catch attention and then show the value fast. Like, so, and that's how you keep people along. Cause man, those TV ads would go sometimes for what, like 3-4 minutes?
Yeah.
They weren't short.
Yeah.
So how do you keep someone engaged for that long? Like, wait, there's more. Buy now.
Yeah. So yeah, like, I mean,
they mastered it.
QVC, TikTok Shoppy style ads are so good for problem solution where you can demonstrate very, very easily, and also really good for gift giving.
Yes.
Like those 2 things are amazing.
But I think everyone should try it out. I don't think anyone really gave even Instagram Live a fair shake or live selling. Like if you do like new releases a lot, hop on there, see what kind of, and you can just turn that around and turn it into an ad too.
Yeah. And a lot of times all you're talking about is paying somebody with product and commission.
All right. So what is the election impact this year? Data driven around media costs and overall option. Well, we dove into that.
Yep.
A couple episodes back when we looked back at 2020. And maybe we'll do a few clips with exact numbers because we don't have our computers out right now. But if I remember right, overall CPMs during the election season rose about 20%.
Yeah, it was between 20 and 40%.
Okay, so we're expecting about a 30% last time we chatted rise just in CPMs. And when we say election season, what that really means is about 30 to 40 days from November 4th. So you're looking at like end of September running into November 4th.
Yep.
Which really sucks sometimes depending on your brand because...
Well, and it bites, especially since it's during Black Friday season 2.
Yes. However, there is a silver lining here, and that is October isn't usually most brands not best month. So the question is, how do you get eyeballs and maintain focus on your brand in a slow month?
Yeah.
Most brands have to do that in October anyways. It's just going to be harder to get that immediate return because your costs are definitely going to go up. So look into conversion rate optimization, look into ways to make sure that your conversion rates can stay high, look into ways to expand your reach for cheap, which is organic. But yeah, we're looking about 30% CPM increase.
Which oftentimes just happens over Black Friday, the month of November.
Yeah, that's going to happen no matter what at the end of October going
what's
through November.
What's happening is you're going to experience this 30 days sooner.
Yeah.
And it's going to be double the amount of time that it usually happens.
Correct.
So this is my recommendation is...
CPMs can go up 100% during Black Friday.
Totally. My biggest recommendation is, there's the obvious ones, which is like, conversion rate optimization. We've talked about like creating organic content to supplement CPM costs, right? So like $1,000, or $10,000 in a day in September 1st does not go as far as, or goes much further than $10,000 a day by October 1st, probably. Right. And so you've got to do one of two things. I mean, the first thing I would highly recommend is just one, understanding that and being prepared for it, so that you're not, sometimes people will take look at things from a false positive perspective to be like, oh my gosh, we're done. Like something's wrong with our business. When in reality, it's like your traffic's just down because your CPM shot up 30%. And so that money just is not equal what it used to equal. And so just be prepped for it. So one is just mentally being prepped for that. Two is getting your numbers prepped to understand what you can afford, right? So let's say your cost...
And that doesn't mean you don't want better ads.
Of course. But let's start...
Just be realistic and have baselines.
Let's start at just like some really basic concepts. So if I were Kizik, for example, because that's where Brett's coming from and where he's asking these questions, and I would understand, okay, hey, I know my CAC is, let's say it's $60. That's what it costs for us to make, or to win a customer. Our AOV is $120. It costs us $40 to make these shoes. So right now we make $20 in profits per first time new customer. Understand what your company can go through. Can you lose $10? Can you only make $4? Can you break even? Understand what that is. Understand what your cash flow is, because you may have a very high lifetime value, but you may be cash flow deficient, right? From POs or other initiatives that's happening behind the scenes.
Right.
And so even though on a normal day you could afford to lose $5 or $10 or $20 per new customer, if your cash flow, is in trouble, those are the things that you need to understand, because I would actually recommend that you don't just dramatically decrease your spend, even though you're going to see inefficiencies, because what happens is you're not going to get more efficient if you decrease spend. That's not how it works. That used to be like a thing. Like, let's decrease spend and get more efficient. I mean, there might be, you decreasing spend might help you clean up some fluff, but you're going to be impacted somewhere. Whether it's the sales follow search model, which is if you're doing tons of top of funnel and you decide to cut it off, okay, you may feel great now, but come January, February, March, you might get really hit because you weren't doing some preparatory work then. So I actually don't totally recommend decreasing your spend, but better understanding what you can afford, because oftentimes what happens is, guess who the most likely people are to become a repeat purchaser? It's somebody within 30 to 60 days. So,
well, it's a purchaser it's someone who's purchased within 30 to 60 days after that initial purchase.
Exactly. So if you're
your highest likelihood to get them to buy again.
Yeah. So if you're like let's say your daily budget's $1,000. Let's say that gets you 20 new customers a day, and CPMs go up. And so now you're only getting 15 new customers a day. That's going to lower, right? Like, so you're going to get less new customers per day. That's going to help you come Black Friday and Q4 gifting season.
Mm-hmm.
But if you decrease that even more, now you might be only getting 7 new customers a day, and it's just going to hurt potentially what might happen for you in November, December.
Yeah, and even though we're expecting this lift, I think just to give some people some basic numbers, so let's just do some easy math for baselines. It's, okay, election season happens. Let's just say it's a 50% increase across the board of CPMs, and let's just say that's then bleeding into your CPA. So you have a 50% increase in CPAs. That cuts into your margins quite a bit, right?
Totally.
So let's say you spent $100 and you were getting 10 purchasers.
Yeah.
So your CAC was 10. Now it's going to be $15.
Yep.
And maybe your AOV is 20.
Yeah.
Right. But if you go look at your cohort analysis, because a lot of companies, their best cohorts are September, October purchasers. Because guess what? They all come back and buy again during November.
Especially if you have a great product.
Yes.
If you don't have a good product, then you might see lower cohorts. You might be like, no, That's not good. It's like, okay, maybe you don't have a great.
Because CPMs go up anyways in November, but in October, buying intent goes down.
Yes.
Because people are expecting
They're
sales
waiting
soon.
for November.
And so one strategy that we've deployed for brands in the past that has been successful is, yes, your CAC goes up in October, but these customers came back and bought at a much higher clip in November.
Yeah.
And because some brands are scared of that. Like, well, I'm going to have a sale next week. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't mean you should stop selling.
Well, your CAC may dip by 200% come those times.
So you got to look at things in a quarterly perspective. But
Absolutely.
yeah, that's a great question. Election season is going to be tricky. It's not going to be a perfect science. So I'd say the strategy using your past metrics, go to 2020, look at what your CPMs did as in your industry.
Yep.
I'm expecting anywhere from 20 to 40% lift, right? Might be lower, then that's great. But put a baseline in of like, what's going to happen to our business if CPMs go up 35%, all things constant.
Yep.
Because yes, maybe the algorithm gets better. That'd be great.
Yep.
Maybe the algorithm isn't. You could use it, and if profit's your priority, there's cost caps.
Zuckerberg came out and made an announcement about how he meddled in the 2020 election. So maybe he's going to be, doing something a little different this year to get us better CPMs. Who knows?
Well, and I'm curious about Zuckerberg because if I recall, the special categories were not required back in 2020.
I can't remember.
For sure not in 2016. I'll have to go back and look at 2020, but
yeah.
The special categories might change. I don't know how their distribution works. Like if you're in a special category like politics.
Right.
Or credit. Like there's credit, there's housing. I don't know how that works with the way they distribute the ads.
Yes. Yeah.
So
it's a good question. I can't remember either.
That might be something that's changed and we'd have to go ask a meta rep. But that's your best bet. Go back, look at priors, set a baseline of like, hey, what are we going to do if our costs go up 30, 40%?
Yep.
Sometimes and again, don't just say that means we cut. Say, can we afford that over 3 months going into Black Friday?
100%. Highly recommend that that's how you look at it before you just cut. Because everyone will say, let's cut.
Yeah, everyone's going to say cut because that hurts.
Of course.
But it's like, well, if we get 60% of those people to come back and buy during Black Friday.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a discount, but what does that do to to the overall cash flow for a quarter?
That was a long response to that. A great response. What else do we have? Any other questions?
Yeah. Let's jump in.
Let's get through some of these. We'll try to be a little quicker. That one I felt like that was an appropriate amount of time because that is a very...
Yeah, guess whatever. It's going to be sticky.
Yeah. Yeah, we're getting into a hairy time of year, so buckle up and get prepared mentally.
Okay, here's a question.
Yep.
Going into hooks, how does somebody create the best kind of hook for their audience?
Understanding your audience, number one. And the reason why the reason why it's important to understand your audience with hooks is because you're going to understand, if you understand better why the customer buys, so their why, you can better understand what's going to hook them. I just went through this with my content.
To add to that.
Oh yeah, there needs to be a little bit more.
It's, from what I have seen, and I am not a content creator. I'm not.
You're an ad creator though?
I'm an ad creator.
That's content.
And we're pretty great at taking old content and turning it into
goodies,
really good performing ads, right? Mm-hmm. You got to focus on like the core emotions here, which is a hook isn't necessarily making anyone feel anything. It's so fast. Like you're really just trying to get someone's attention, which is intrigue, right? So it's intrigue, which can be social proof. It can be a quick blip. It can be just like simply surprising, but you're just going to have to go through rapid iterations. Because it is like ads and hooks. Like the one thing that I have learned is I cannot tell you, like I have a good idea of like, hey, let's try this and this and this. So like, let's take seconds 6 through 7 of this ad and put that as the hook.
Yep.
And let's test that versus this versus that.
Yep.
One of those will work, but like, it's so hard to determine which one.
I'm always wrong.
It's always like, oh, that's going to be the best performing ad. And like, it's almost
and
impossible.
I've been doing this for so long. I'm always wrong.
So yes, understand your customer. Start thinking about what you have been interested in.
Totally.
Like what has got your attention from a hook perspective, and think about clickbaits and the way people get you to click on things that like, it's like, oh, that wasn't really what it was. But just think about, why are you interested in something right off the bat? Like, what caught your attention, right? Like, is it a big zit?
Yeah, there's visual.
Yeah,
There's design work, and there's wording.
Like Lucky Egg had a hook for one of the organic pieces, which was when they were doing that slap game.
Oh yeah, and it was like somebody getting slapped.
This isn't an ad, but this is organic hook, right?
Yeah.
Like it was like, I think the guy getting hit with the face, and then it was like challenging my boss to a
game or something like that.
So you got to think about the hook as being more of like a climax, and then you get into the substantive,
the story,
and what really matters to on a deeper level. But like, you're not going to get to that deeper level if you don't grab their attention right off the bat. And grabbing their attention can be, again, it could be fear-based, it could be hope-based, it could be intrigue, but it's going to have to be
emotion. Yeah.
You think in 1 second intervals. Like, biggest problem with hooks is people think it's like a 3-4 second delay. Like, it's got to be immediate.
Yeah.
Colors help. Go look into the psychology of colors too.
Do you want to know what one of my best hook videos for my content was?
What?
I did this. It was voiceover.
Oh yeah, it was like the fake picking the nose.
I did this and then licked with that. So it looked like I'm picking and eating my booger.
Yes.
But I said something that connected with it. That was fine. The other thing that you can do is go look at people in your same category who are winning. On the organic stuff, don't look at their ads, because if you go to Facebook ad library, you actually don't know what is winning. You don't see how much budget's going to those ads and those kinds of things. So you might be looking
that's a huge
stuff.
caveat, because some of the best looking ads are not the best performing ads.
Totally.
But still, go look at a brand that you think is doing a good job, and guess what? You can test that.
Totally.
Test
or
what
just
they're
go
doing.
look at content creators who are getting good traction and good views and see how they hook people. That's what I've been doing a ton for hooks. All right, let's move on.
Okay, I think that's time.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining the 100th episode of The Unstoppable Marketer. We're really excited. Please go to my link in bio. I have a survey, and I can't tell you how much it'll mean if you go take this survey. Today is going to be the last day. Well, if you're watching the IG Live, you have time, but September 10th, last day that you will be able to take that. You'll get entered in to win the giveaway. And the feedback you'll give us will be tremendous. Like, it'll be so helpful. So we want to thank our producers over at the Film Lab. We've been with the Film Lab for, I want to say, the last 18 months of the last 2.5 years.
Yep.
I think we maybe did this for a year alone, and boy, was that painful. But
so if you need some content needs, hit them up.
Podcast content needs, they're a part of our giveaway. We love them.
Also, when we're talking about storytelling, if you're a company that is looking to...
They're fabulous at it.
Get some better, higher production content. Yeah. When we're talking about top funnel, that kind of content does great, right? Top funnel.
And tell them, this actually is legit. Tell them Bestie sent you, and they'll give you a screaming deal, actually. So,
that's right. Screaming Eagles.
Screaming Eagles, yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, and we will see you guys next week. Thank you so much for listening to the Unstoppable Marketer podcast. Please go rate and subscribe the podcast, whether it's good or bad. We want to hear from you, because we always want to make this podcast better. If you want to get in touch with me or give me any direct feedback, please go follow me and get in touch with me. I am at the Trevor Crump on both Instagram and TikTok. Thank you, and we will see you next week.